All right, we are recording. Hi, everybody. I am Miss Kundrat, the math coach at Fort Pierce Central High School, and I'm going to go over this PERT practice study guide for your PERT test for graduation requirements. And you should all have this packet, and it is straight from the company that makes the PERT test. It looks a little something like this. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with Numero Uno. Okay, this says, which of the following is a solution to this equation? So the first thing I want to do is rewrite. So C plus 4 minus 3C minus 2 is equal to 0. Now what I like to do is I like to draw a nice pretty line right where that equal sign is, because before I start moving anything over that equal sign, I want to make sure we're nice and simplified on both sides. So we are not simplified yet over here. Something we need to know is PEMDAS, which never goes away. Now I write the M and the D for multiplication and division. I write that left to right here, because when you are simplifying expressions or solving equations, you always do whichever comes first with your expression or equation, left to right. Meaning, even though we say PEMDAS, if division came before multiplication, you would do the division first. So keep that in mind. So I start with our P. For parentheses, that means to simplify whatever is inside. In this case, we're nice and simple, so we move on. They're not like terms, we can't combine them. Exponents, we don't have any. Move on. Multiplication. Now, essentially, there's a 1 out here that we don't see, and it's telling us to multiply everything by a positive 1, which means it doesn't change. So instead of thinking of it that way, I just like to think, if there is a plus sign outside of parentheses, that means that everything inside stays the same. Okay, a plus sign means everything inside the parentheses stays the same. So this is a positive 4. We're going to keep it a positive 4. Sorry, we'll do that. This guy here is a negative 3C, so we're going to keep it a negative 3C. This is a negative 2, and that's a 0. All right, so we're good there. We're going to move on. The next thing we're going to do, we're done with multiplication. There's no division. We're now going to look at our addition and subtraction. So we're just going to combine like terms. Here we have this guy and this guy. Now there is a 1 in front of that C that we don't see, and they will never write. So I like to write it, or you can write it if you want to. When you add or subtract, if the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, you subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. Okay, so in this case, the signs are different. So off to the side, I'm going to say 3 minus 1, which is 2. And then our larger number is negative, so our answer will be negative. Now we're going to look here. We have a positive 4 minus 2, which is going to be 4 minus 2, which is just 2. It's equal 0. Now that we're nice and simplified over here, what I like to do is I tell students to cover up the term that has your variable and move everything away from it or to the other side. Now, I'm not in front of you, so I'm gonna cover it up like that. If I cover this guy up, I want to move this to the other side. So right now we have a positive 2. When you want to move it over, we're going to do the opposites. So the opposite of positive is a negative. I'm going to get rid of that shading though. Here we go. So I'm going to subtract 2. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. That cancels out. We are going to bring this down, which is a negative 2C is equal to negative 2. Now here we have negative 2 times C, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So to get c by itself, we're going to divide by -2. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. Goodbye. We are left with c is equal to, now here, we're dividing -2 by -2, which is a +1. And that is our answer. Side notes. I'm going to go back right here to the very beginning of this problem. Okay, this was a positive or a plus sign on the outside of the parentheses. Let's just say that instead of a positive was a negative sign. And I'm going to actually just rewrite this part here. So instead of that positive, if it looked like this, okay, remember, positive just meant everything stayed the same. So if it was a negative sign, that means everything on the inside is going to become opposites, not negative, but opposite. So this right here is a +4. If I distribute that, I'm now going to get a -4. If I go here, this is a -3C. So the opposite of that is going to be positive. Okay, so if it's a plus, this stays the same. If it's a minus or a negative sign out there, everything inside becomes opposite. All right, and we are going to move on to numero dos. Okay, this is saying to graph the solution of this on a number line. So y - 2 is greater than 1. I wish they would have given us a little more of a challenging problem here, but that's okay. So we're going to treat this guy just as if it were an equal sign, and we're going to solve. So let me get a fancy line up. Why not, right? We'll do that. If I covered up this y and moved this away from it, the opposite of subtraction is addition. So what we're going to do is add 2 to both sides. That cancels. We're left with y is greater than 3. I'm going to go with a different color here. So now all that we do with this is you go to your number line and you look for the number 3. So right away, I know it's not going to be C or D because this right here is -3. So that doesn't work. So it's either going to be this guy or this guy. Now, because this is saying y is greater than 3, our answer is going to be B. Our hole, we call it, is going to be open or not shaded. Okay, this one here for A, what this represents is y is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so I always think if I see this guy, that means included. This is when you shade. This, you don't shade. Okay, so our answer is B. I'm actually going to throw up another problem. So this new problem is not on your study guide. I'm just going to make something up. Let's see. Let's do -2x plus 3 is less than, or actually I don't want to do less than. Oh, whoa. All right, we'll just keep that. Less than or equal to, let's say 7. Okay, if I have this problem, we're going to approach it again as if, well, that's fun, as if this were an equal sign and we're just going to solve. So essentially, we're going to pretend like this guy isn't here. We're going to cover it up and move this away from it. That's what you do when you're solving. You want to get x by itself, take the term, cover it, move everything away. Right now we have a +3. To move it over, we do the opposite, which is -3. So I'm going to subtract 3, that cancels. We're left with -2x is less than or equal to, and 7 minus 3 is 4. Now, here's why I wanted to show you this problem. When you have an inequality, that's this stuff. or, you know, those are called inequalities. Okay, when you have that and you divide by a negative number, which is what we are about to do here. We want to get x by itself. This is saying negative 2 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division. When, I don't know why I just wrote a 3. Wow. We divide by a negative. I almost wrote a 3 again. Goodness, sorry guys. That goes away. We're left with x's. This right here flips. Okay, so right now it looks like this. It is now going to look like that. And 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. I'm going to actually do this with my equal sign. When you divide by a negative number with inequalities, your inequality sign flips. Okay, and they will get you on that. Now, just to show you what this would look like, I'm going to just, oh goodness. I'm going to just draw, that's not too bad. Draw a number line here. I'm going to go positive 2, negative 2, 0's in the middle. We, of course, are going to go, actually, I don't know, I'll just throw in here negative 3, positive 3. It doesn't matter. I guess I could have done my 1's negative 1. All right, we'll do it the right way. There we go. So you're going to go to negative 2 on your number line. I'm going to go, but wait a minute. Because we have this, okay, that means our circle is going to be shaded. And this says x is greater than. So we are going to shade to the right. And that would be our answer. Voila. All right, moving on to number 3. Okay, which of the following is a solution to this equation? This is a very good one. Okay, this exponent here, the 2, that means that this is a quadratic. That means that this problem actually has 2 solutions. They're only asking us to find one. Okay, now there's a couple different ways we can do that. We can use the quadratic equation, which I think is kind of messy, or we can factor. And in terms of this test, you really only need to factor. So, just to refresh your memory on that, actually, I'm going to interrupt myself for a second. You can always, if there's an equal sign and you get stuck, you can always take every one of these options and plug them in for x. Okay, and in this case, you would want this side to say 0, because 0 equals 0 would be a true statement. Okay, but I think you actually need to know how to do the work. So we are going to do a refresher on factoring. Okay. First of all, you have A, B, C, and I'm going to go in with black, just bear with me, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This right here is standard form for a quadratic, where A, B, and C are all numbers. So the first thing that you want to do when you are solving quadratics is you want to identify your A, your B, and your C. Okay, so I am now going to, actually we'll just use this one for a second. Okay, A is the number in front of x squared. If we look here, there's something that we don't see, and of course, that's a 1. Okay, so our A is equal to 1. That's actually good news. We'll talk about that in a second. B is the number in front of x. So in this case, and be careful here, our B is not 6. Our B is going to be negative 6. A lot of people will forget that negative. And then our C is going to be a positive 5. Okay, so this is the first thing that you do. You identify A, B, and C. Now what I'm gonna do, oops, no. We need our eraser. All right. I'm gonna rewrite this, which is x squared minus 6x plus 5 is equal to 0. Now we've already established our A is equal to 1. This is great news. Right away when A is 1, I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna go here and here with our x's or our variable. Okay, that is only when a is 1. Now that we have this set up, okay, we are going to look for factors of a times c that give us the sum of b. Okay, now when we do this, okay, again, a is 1, so we're looking for factors of 1 times 5, which is just 5. Okay, factors of a times c, in this case, a times c is 5, that give us the sum of b. And of course, our b is going to be -6. So factors, what this means is that we have two numbers that when we multiply them together, we are going to get a +5. Okay, whatever those two numbers are, whenever we add them up, we need to get a -6. Okay, so this is actually something else to think about. Okay, when we're thinking of our factors and our product here is positive, but our sum here is negative. Okay, if our product is positive, that means that our signs for both of these factors have to be the same. Because when we add them up, we get a negative. Right away, I know that both of these factors are going to be negative. Okay, and now because 5 is a prime number, 1 and 5 are the only two numbers that go into 5. So our factors are going to be -1 and -5. When we combine them by adding, okay, are the signs the same? Yes. So we add and keep the sign. So yes, when we add these babies up, we get a -6. So this was actually a pretty easy one, which we'll have a tougher one in a little bit. So all that I'm going to do now is I take these numbers, these factors, and I go right up here and I write them here. Now we're almost done. Okay, what this means is the quantity x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 5 equals 0. Here's the deal. When we multiply anything times 0, we get 0. So let's just say that this guy right here, this x minus 1, was equal to 0. It wouldn't matter what was in here because whenever we multiplied, we would get 0 for our answer. If this right here, this x minus 5, if that was equal to 0, this here could be 10 billion. It wouldn't matter because when we multiply, we would get 0. So what you do with these problems is you set this guy equal to 0 and this guy equal to 0, and then you solve for both of them. So in this case, we want to get x by itself. I add 1 to both sides. X is equal to 1. Here, when we solve, we're going to add 5 to both sides. That cancels, and we get x is equal to 5. So those right there, those are our two answers. And if we go back here and look at what they try to do to us, they try to trick us. We have -5, that doesn't work. -1, nope, no. Our answer here will be D. So again, when you see quadratics, okay, you first identify your A, your B, your C. If A is equal to 1, you can go ahead and set it up like so. You look for factors of A times C that give you the sum of B. From there, you write those factors in, and then you set this guy equal to 0 and this guy equal to 0, and you solve. My dogs are out there barking. Okay, moving on. Number 4. Oh, this is a good one. I like this one. Okay, we're going to go in with, I like the purple. Let's do that. Okay, what is the value of the algebraic expression? It gives us all this, and there's our expression. So I am going to rewrite this. We have 6x y squared z Okay. And then here we have all of that. And by the way, when you're doing this test, you need to rewrite all of this on your paper. So you're not doing this the whole time. I can't stress that enough. All right, so where I see X, I'm going to plug in a 1/2. Do not be scared of fractions. Fractions are your friends. I promise, they're not that bad. So this is going to be 6 times 1/2. Okay, and then now I have a y. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so y is -1. So this is important. I'm going to do -1 squared, and anytime I have a negative, I put it in parentheses, okay, because that does matter. And then our z is equal, you know what I'm going to do here? Our z is equal to 2, so I'm going to just do this. That's a multiplication sign, and I'm going to do 2, close parentheses. And by the way, I could have just done here, if the parentheses throw you off a little bit, instead of doing that, I could have just written 6 times 1/2, which actually I'm going to do that. Just so we're a little, I know too many parentheses start to look confusing, so I'm going to do this. We'll say 6 times 1/2. I don't know. It makes it look a little cleaner. Okay, so we know PEMDAS. PEMDAS. All right, so first thing we're going to do is parentheses, which is here. And now inside these parentheses, we have exponents. So you still have to follow PEMDAS inside parentheses. So 6 times 1/2. All right, now right here, be careful what this means, and this is why your parenthesis here was so important, okay? What this means is -1 times -1. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so our answer here is going to be +1, and that's times 2. Oh goodness, that looks a little rough. Here we go. Times 2, bigger parentheses. Okay, now we're looking good. All right, next I'm going to do 6 times 1/2. 1 times 2 is just 2. And then I'm running out of room here. Now we're going to do PEMDAS. It's going to go left to right. 6 times 1/2. This is the same thing as saying 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now we have 3 times 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. And that is our answer. Voila. All right, next we have, number 5. That's going to be it for this video. And then we'll do another 5, or the other 5 on another video. Okay, we have 8 minus 5. Oh, I like this one. Divided by 2 to the 3rd. Which of the following is equivalent to this? Lots of fractions. All right, don't let it intimidate you. Remember, PEMDAS. We're getting a theme here. I think I've written PEMDAS on all of these. All right, so parentheses. Yes, we have them. So we're going to do whatever's inside here first. And 8 minus 5 is 3. And then we have 3 divided by, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now be very careful here. What I see students doing when they see this, okay, is they're saying, okay, 2 to the 3rd power is, oh goodness, is equal to, there we go. Well, you know what? That's not what I'm trying to do here. There we go. Go back, go back. I will see students do this. 2 to the 3rd power is equal to 6. Wrong. 2 times 3 is equal to 6. Not that. Okay, what this here means, 2 to the 3rd power. Okay, this means 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, 2 times 2 This is how I, oh goodness gracious, 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So here we have 3 divided by 8, and now if you write this as a fraction, it's just 3 divided by 8. So our answer is A. All right, everybody, nice job. If you are able to do all of these problems without a calculator, you are going to be in very, very good shape for your test. Oh, that was a nice frozen face. All right, bye, everybody. We'll see you next time for numbers 6 through 10. Jeez.